Welcome to the Left Hook Substack with Wajahat Ali, and I'm with Rick Wilson. Rick Wilson, you gotta subscribe to his Substack. Also, a co-founder of Lincoln Project, also an author of several best-selling books. Also, former Republican strategist. Also, a troll and frenemy of Twitter, MAGA, and Elon Musk. And the big question I have for Rick today is: do we feel great again, MAGA? And I want to set the stage real quick. Rick and I were part of this now kind of epic, endearing segment on CNN several years ago during Trump's first administration. It was Don Lemon, me, and Rick, and we were actually invited to talk about something important when Trump and Mike Pence, no, excuse me, when Trump and the guy who does Ozempic now, his Secretary of State, Pompeo, mocked and ridiculed an NPR reporter. And then Rick said, Trump can't even find Ukraine. He thinks it's you and a crane. We all laughed. It was harmless. Oh, boo hoo hoo, MAGA was hurt. They were so pissed off. How dare Rick and Waj be so mean for 2 minutes to these
Oh,
cool
they're so
bullies?
mean to us.
Yeah. Why? And so, with Rick, I always say this. Uh, world's smallest violin for the school bullies who demand civility but give us cruelty, who punch down on everything and everyone but expect us to respect them. Relationships require reciprocity. But, Rick, I've always said this: since I'm not a psychopath, I don't need people to suffer in order to feel great again.
Right.
I don't need MAGA to suffer. I want these people who call me an invader from a shithole country. You know what I want for them, Rick? Healthcare, economic opportunities,
Sure.
jobs. I want their kids to succeed. Right. As I'm saying this, Rick, right before we started record, you and I were talking about how we warned people for 10 years. It will get worse. This is an authoritarian regime. And I just want to set the table real quick, folks, as we're recording this. U.S. job cuts, 275,000 in March, the highest since the pandemic, surpassing 2001 2008 recession. Stock market drop on the heels of the stupidest trade war in history, fifth largest single drop in history, third highest monthly total on record, six dead right now as a storm brings catastrophic floods to central U.S., Trump country, and Rick, Laura Loomer, fringe activist nut job, talks to Donald Trump for 30 minutes, and he doesn't listen to JD. He doesn't listen to his experts. Listens to Laura and purges some of these national security councils. With that, Rick, does MAGA feel great again?
I think right now, like a lot of these guys on Wall Street, they're trying to talk themselves into believing there's some sort of coherent strategy behind all this. They're trying to talk themselves into the idea that Trump is playing 47 dimensional quantum chess. They're trying to imagine that Donald Trump is somehow doing something that isn't just loud noises and self-destructive actions. And the reality is, and I hate to disappoint him, he's not. He is this crazy. This thing he's doing is that utterly bug fuck insane. The markets, I'm watching them out of a corner of my eye. Anytime that the stock market is down nearly 5% in one day, this is not, America, what you call being wealthy again. This is not what you call being great again. But here's the thing. A lot of these folks that voted for Trump, they did believe he had a coherent economic vision that they believed that Harris lacked. And they believed that it was that the things that were holding back that economic vision were that Donald Trump didn't have enough power in his first term, or that immigrants were here taking things away from them. And so a lot of them had this combination, this sort of weird potion that they drank of economic anger. And by the way, folks, I want to take a quick sidebar. Yeah, there's a lot of economic anger out in the country, but let me tell you who's taken more jobs away from American industrial workers than trade. McKinsey, Goldman, private equity. When they've taken these companies apart, stacked them with debt, ripped them to pieces, sold it off for parts, and then written off the loss on paper that they made. So a lot more American jobs have been screwed by people. I'm in New York today, about 15 blocks south of where I am right now, than they have been by the stoop labor Mexican worker picking beans in a field, or or the guy who came up here on a work visa from Colombia to work in a slaughterhouse. These people who voted for Trump had this sort of weird, nefarious fantasy that anyone from another country must be here to harm us. They're here to work. It's an American dream that was never about whether you were a white guy or not. A little bit in the beginning, but in the last 200 years or so, since the Civil War especially, this idea that America was a propositional country where you could come here and work and become an American, the Trump voters hated that idea. They hated it. They wanted everybody to look and be what they were. And I think that that is a really sad kind of position to have. But right now, they've given Trump all the power that they think he wanted and needed. And what has he done with it? He's put the economy in the shitter.
Yep.
And it's going to get worse. This is the first day of the first quarter of the Trump disaster, y'all. And I feel terrible because there are millions of Americans in red states and red districts who really thought they were getting something else. And Waj, I mean, you and me and Steve Bannon rarely agree on anything, but an awful lot of Trump's voters are on Social Security, are on Medicare, are on Medicaid, are on SNAP or TANF or disability. And they're the ones who are going to get screwed by both the economy crashing, because they're going to lose whatever jobs they have, and they're going to lose their benefits because Elon and Doge need to cut those benefits so they can pay for a tax cut for Elon and Jeff Bezos and Mark Zuckerberg.
Yeah, $6 trillion tax hike. One of the biggest tax hikes in the country. We're all going to suffer to pay
$6
for
trillion
tax
in the
cuts.
first year.
Yeah, only the first year. But don't you worry, Rick. All these countries are going to bend the knee because Godfather Trump is going to be like, okay, you were nice to me, no tariffs for you. You were a little
Right.
bit nice to me, less tariffs. That's how it's going to work. It's not going to work this way, folks. Consumer confidence is down. Instead of a recession, now they're predicting a global depression. Folks, Fox did not have the ticker. Fox News, when I checked an hour and a half ago, there was no stock ticker. Even Fox knows it's bad. You can't polish this turd, even though they're
No.
trying. But speaking of polishing this turd and why it's so terrifying, it seems that Donald, who is reckless, who declared bankruptcy 6 times, whose daddy gave him over $300 million as a type of inheritance, which he squandered, folks.
Yep.
No art of the deal. This man is in power. And not only is he in power, Rick, you know this, he is susceptible to the whisper of the last person who talks to him. And so
100%.
the people who are surrounding him, folks, this is why I'm not like just laughing off this Laura Loomer story. For those who don't know, it's breaking news. Laura Loomer, folks, I've been following her for a while. Spoiler alert, I'm Muslim, brown skinned, come from the shithole country,
What? No
apparently. I
way.
know. I know. It's a tan. It's going to come off. Laura Loomer is not a far right activist. Laura Loomer is one of the most nutty, fringe, hateful, anti Muslim bigots who was a joke. Even within MAGA in the first term, Rick and I keep receipts. She's the one who chained herself to Twitter headquarters. Remember that, Rick? That
Oh,
lady
yes.
got a 30-minute appointment with the most powerful man on earth, the President of the United States. And the reporting shows, as of today, that after that 30-minute meeting with that Laura Loomer, she said, hey, Donald, you know this signal gate that's not going away? Some of these NatSec folks, they're not America first. So you got to get rid of them. So for the past 2 weeks, he didn't listen to, I don't know, every single person that said, for the love of God, throw Mike Waltz under the bus, throw Hexet under the bus. Signal gate ain't going away. Rick, break this down for me. The fact that he's listening to Laura Loomer.
Look, this is one of the problems with Donald Trump psychologically is that he will, as you said, listen to the last person in the room. He will also always listen to people who have flattered him the most recently. And Laura Loomer spends the vast majority of her time saying that Donald Trump is the tallest, smartest, handsomest man in every room, that men want to be him and women want to bear his children, that there's no one ever been like Donald Trump in the history of all mankind. And that idea that she will be a reliable security blanket for him played out in this story. Now, the folks that got fired were not the folks who need to be fired, from what we know so far. Trump doesn't want to give his opponents a scalp. He doesn't want to give his opponents a win. He feels that if he fires Waltz or Hegseth, neither of whom are qualified for the job, by the way. Listen, I knew Mike Waltz before he was Mike Waltz the MAGA. Very nice guy, not a bad guy, just not up to the job of being national security advisor. He's a former Green Beret and served honorably and bravely. But the job of national security advisor requires a degree of intelligence and understanding of the world that Waltz doesn't have. Pete Hegseth is a drunk, a loudmouth, a fool, a bigot, an abuser of women by every
Mm.
account. And none
According to
of
his own
this,
mom.
yeah,
According to
according
his
to
own
his
mom.
own mother. Um, and he is a guy who should never have held that job, is unqualified. I have worked for a Secretary of Defense in the Pentagon as an appointee. I have worked for another Secretary of Defense as a consultant. I understand what that job is. It is the most serious job in government in many, many ways because you're in charge of the lives of 2.5 million American soldiers,
Yep.
sailors,
Yep.
airmen, Marines, Coast Guardmen, Space Force folks. And Pete Hegseth is a fool. And he was sending
And
out,
Rick, a $900 billion budget,
correct.
and also one of the premier strategists for national security policy.
Yeah, correct. And folks, say what you will about the mistakes other secretaries of defense have made of both parties, but they were serious people, and they made mistakes based on the mistakes that serious people make. They misread a policy. They don't understand a culture. Pete Hegseth is a frat bro who happens to be the SecDef. The
Yep.
fact that Pete Hegseth is in any way involved in national security strategy is laughable at every conceivable level. He is a fool. Now, Trump would have done himself a lot of favors in the world by replacing Waltz and replacing Hegseth, but he can't because his ego is too wrapped up in I never back down, I never admit defeat, I never admit that I told a lie, deny, 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 deny. It's
The Cohen
always,
strategy.
yeah, it goes back, you know, the through line of Trump's relationship with Roy Cohn and then the relationship of Roy Cohn's mini-me, Roger Stone. um, that arc runs right to the present moment that we're seeing here. And a lot of you were too young to remember Roy Cohn. I didn't know Roy Cohn. I was a kid when he died, but a lot of folks are too young to remember what a pernicious influence he had on American culture and American political life. He was the guy behind the McCarthy hearings in
Yep.
the 50s. He was a corrupt and corrupting force in every life he ever entered into. And if you guys want to learn a little bit about it on the entertainment side, go watch The Apprentice by Gabriel Sherman. Brilliant portrayal of Trump as a young man, as a biographer and a student and anthropologist of Trump. I can tell you, it's very spot on. And the idea that we are in a world where that stubbornness makes the country less safe is real. We are in a world where his stubbornness about the economy makes the country less prosperous. That's real. The idea that MAGA is going to be able to like close their eyes and go la 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 and pretend this isn't happening is just wrong at this point. I mean, the job losses that are mounting today. I'm watching a ticker go by. Amana is closing factories.
Oof.
Ford, Stellantis, all these companies are closing factories all over America right now, and other nations are hitting back with their own tariffs against us. The madness of this, the irresponsibility of it, is playing out economically, politically, governmentally, and in foreign policy at every level. And people who love Donald Trump, watch, there's going to always be 20% of them, the red
Yeah.
hat,
Always.
truck nuts, MAGA flag, boat parade dipshits. They will go to their graves saying, oh, no, it was all great except the deep state secretly, attacked, whatever. But there are even a lot of Republicans right now in leadership and out in federal and state offices who are like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
What now? Because if the election for 2026 was held this week, Donald Trump would lose 50 or 60 seats in the House. He would lose safe Republican seats in the House. And I don't think this is going to get better. Watch, I don't think
Nope.
it's going to like turn around. As somebody this morning said to me, their analogy was, when you get in a car crash, you can maybe like clean it up, get the car fixed, but the time of the crash is like 1 second to the next. The time of the repair is months or
There you
years.
go. There you
And
go.
what he's done is going to take years and years and years and years and years to fix. And I don't know that we're going to have enough Republicans in the House to do what has to be done to stop these tariffs. I think the Senate, there are enough Republicans in the Senate to stop the tariffs. I think that they will recognize the danger they're in. Because look, when you and I are on the same side of an issue as Rand Paul, the world is fucking weird, dude.
Dude,
And
I saw him speak. For those who aren't followed, Rand Paul appeared next to Senator of Virginia, Democrat Tim
yep,
Kaine,
yep,
and Rand Paul was lucid, on point, eloquent, and broke down the disaster that is this trade war. And I was listening to Rand Paul. I'm like, that's yes. And then right after I said yes, I'm like, oh my God, I
it's
agree with
Rand
Rand. Even
Paul.
Rand
Holy
gets it.
shit.
Even Rand gets it. Rick, this is the first time we've talked since the election. I share your sentiment. I want to bring up two things I want to
Sure.
talk to them about. You already mentioned one. I've told people, like I'm sure many people have come to you like they've come to you in the past 2 weeks. Before the election, Waj, you have suffering from TDS, Trump derangement
Uh-huh.
syndrome. Waj, it won't be that bad. Waj, we survived the first 4 years. Waj, the systems will hold him in check. Oh, the Democrats need to be punished. Both sides are the same. Yada yada yada. Those same people, Rick,
Right.
in the last 2 weeks, have now come to me, kind of apologizing, not really, but now saying, all right, Watch, you were right. What do you think is going to happen? And what they expect me to say, Rick, is the following: 2026 is going to come around the corner. Don't you worry. Democrats are going to win. And what I say is, okay, if we have free and fair elections in 2026 and
If.
2028,
Big F.
I want to talk to you about that for a second. Even if the Democrats win, folks, I want to stress something that you said. This is generational damage. This is damage to our reputation, to our economy. Once you burn down the house, Rick, the house itself doesn't get burned down. Sometimes other houses catch fire, right? And I feel like the neighborhood is burning down, and people who think magically in 2026 that Democrats winning, suppose they win. Can you just elaborate on that? I think, Rick, and I've said this to other folks, and I'm not trying to depress anyone. I'm a realist and
Right.
I have to be hopeful. I have 3 kids. I see it this way. Let me use a religious analogy. Moses leads the people out, but even Moses doesn't get to Jerusalem, right?
Right.
And I feel like with my life, where you and I are in our lives, middle-aged men with the gut. I drive a minivan. You're cooler. You drive a better car. Uh, this is
I
this
drive a
is gonna.
Volvo. I'm not that cool.
You're with me. Volvo and minivan that you can't escape. For us, Rick, everyone has a different role, right? Everyone wants to be Moses. Everyone wants to be Luke Skywalker. Everyone wants to be the hero. But some of us, with where we are in life right now, our job is to plant the seeds. We might not get
Right.
there. But I believe, I hope I'm wrong, this is going to be a generational fight for you and me. But if
Yep.
we fight the good fight, our kids get to reap the rewards. Your take on this?
Listen, I think that's exactly right. I'm 61 years old. I have been fighting Donald Trump for 10 years now. As of next month, 10 years.
Mm,
And I'm tired, Raj. I'm fucking tired. I wish to God I could go and spend time with my grandchild and fly my airplane and travel with my beautiful woman and go around, and write more books and whatever. I would love that. That would be paradise for me. But I can't. And we're still in this fight every day. And it is going to take a long time. And here's the thing, folks. Ironically, America is good at the great work. When we decided as a nation to remove slavery and to emancipate African American slaves, that was a great work of its era. And that great work has arced on for now, 140 years, 150
mm,
years, excuse me. We are imperfect at that great work, but we have done that great work. Same thing with women at the beginning of the last century. We're imperfect at the great work, but we made that great work important. After World War II, we were fighting World War II to overcome global dictatorship and Nazism. We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to do it. We didn't want to do it. We realized we had to do it, and we did it. After that, we helped rebuild Europe because we knew it had to stand against global communism, the great work of that time. All of this, all of this work that we've done in the past in our country is comparable to what we face now.
Yep,
Look, one day, everybody goes, and one day the guy who eats Big Macs and Kentucky Fried Chicken and fillet of fish every day is going to meet the actuarial tables, and the Reaper is going to snip the cord. It won't immediately go back to where we were. We have work ahead now because the car crash takes a second and the rebuilding takes a long time.
that's right.
It will probably I will be in my 80s by the time we unfuck all the problems that we've built for ourselves in the last 10 years. But
It
we
is
have
just
to. We don't get a
we
choice.
have
We have to face this as Americans. As Americans, we don't get a choice on we don't get to automatically just take the easy out.
nope. And I want to ask a final question and get you out. You and I were the early adopters of the F word, fascism.
Yeah.
You and I used the A word,
Yeah.
authoritarianism. When we used these words back in the day, and we have the receipts, folks, like I said, going back full circle, people thought we were crazy. Trump derangement syndrome, right? All this
Right.
nonsense.
Oh, many times.
2020, you and I said he will not leave peacefully. We were mocked and ridiculed even by
Right.
Republicans, even by MAGA. You guys are exaggerating.
Right.
I bring this all up to say I'm extremely confident. I've been wrong before. If I'm wrong on this, I'll eat halal crow. Donald Trump is never leaving. We have an authoritarian leader who is going to be there till death, and people still haven't acknowledged it or confronted this truth. Your response, if you agree or disagree.
Listen, Donald Trump is going to have to be pulled out of that office feet first. He will fight and claw to stay in that office because he does not want to go to jail. He does not want to face responsibility. And as much as the Supreme Court's get out of jail free card that they gave him makes him believe that he can't be held to account, he fears accountability more than anything on earth. He fears not being rich and safe and protected. And he's gotten away with shit before. He's gotten away with murder before. And that thing, when you get away with murder the first time, the second one's easier. The first time is that like the difficulty's at 10. The second time it's at 2. He will think to himself, I can stay. I'll say fuck you to the courts. I'll say fuck you to the Democrats. I will stay in this. And enough of my Secret Service detail will stand by me as a Praetorian guard, and we'll see what they do. Well, at that point, we're not even pretending he's not a dictator anymore. At that point, we're not even pretending he's not an authoritarian anymore. And if it reaches that point, I want to see all the guys who are all hyped up about America, like the tree of liberty must be watered by the blood of tyrants on their bumper stickers. Don't tread on me. I want to see how that works. But I think he's going to stick it out as long and as painfully as he can.
Yep. And in response, folks, it requires all of us to step up. So many people say, "What can I do?" Look, authoritarians and fascists, they hate anyone standing up to them. But what we know from the schoolyard bully is a schoolyard bully is weak. He's insecure. He has a weak chin and even weaker knees. What he does with a few of his buddies, he picks on the lowest hanging fruit, the
Yeah.
weakest kid. He beats him up, and then he says, if you don't pay me the money, that's what's going to happen to you. And everyone bends the knee. But when a few people stand up, courage, like hope, is also contagious. They say,
Absolutely.
oh, look, Rick stood up. He took a few arrows. He didn't die. Watts stood up. Oh, look, that company, Costco stood up, didn't cancel DEI.
Right.
Although Perkins, like Paul Weiss, the law firm, didn't bend the knee. Oh, look, Cory Booker did a filibuster. Oh, courage is contagious, and that's how you build, if you will. I got a Millennium Falcon right there, right? The rebellion in numbers, strength
Yep.
in numbers. And I just want to end on that this is going to be a long walk for anyone who thinks that 2026 and 2028 is going to magically solve the problems. It's not. For anyone who thinks that the Avengers are going to come and save the day, they're not. You can't outsource the saving of democracy. Everyone has a role to play. The house mom, the dad, the worker, the corporation, the lawyers, the judges, the journalists. Everyone has a role to play. And I hope people finally have their heads removed from the sands, their eyes fully wide open, and they're seeing it. As of today, Rick, with the stock market crashing, with a potential recession coming, with measles spiking, with the FDA gone, with NIH getting its funding cut, with 275,000 jobs lost, folks, it's going to get worse before it gets better. But I agree with you to end on a hopeful note. I think this news of this week, this is it's going to get bad, Rick. But I think Trump is weakened now. I think you're going to see a
I
resistance.
think he is. I think he is weakened. I think he is. I mean, if you watch his tariff speech yesterday, that was not a guy at the top of his game anymore,
No.
folks. And as I like to quote the 1980s documentary Predator, if it bleeds, we can kill it. Guys, they've got a lot of self-inflicted wounds. We have to keep up the pressure every day. Waj, I appreciate you having me on, brother. It's great to talk to you as always, and let's do this again. I'll have you on my Substack in the next little bit.
Let's do it, man. Thanks to all the people who joined. See you soon.
Thanks,
Take care of
everybody.
yourself. Don't be a fascist.
Don't be a fascist.